Hi everyone, it's Lucy here from That Homeschool Life, and today I am very excited to join in the Meet the Teacher collaboration for Australian homeschoolers on YouTube. And a big shout out to Kylie from the Homeschool Sweet Spot for organising all of this. So let's jump into the questions that I've been given, that we've all been given, and hopefully by the end of this you'll know me a little bit better. So the first question is, when did you start homeschooling and why? So I began my homeschooling journey in 2009. We actually made the decision around about halfway through 2008 that we would see most of 2008 out for my eldest at school. And my next child, our next child at that stage, was starting kindergarten the following year. And he was only allowed to go to school for an hour and a half a day because he had some neurodiverse needs that weren't going to be met. And we felt that the only option that we had to give him complete face-to-face time learning more than an hour and a half a day was going to be to bring him home and to start his learning journey at home. So he was 4.5 going into kindy, or what you I think call prep up north, and his first year of registered schooling. And so we just decided to do that at home and to bring our older child who had done kindy in year 1 we're in New South Wales, to bring her home as well. So we decided to do that, and we are still going. So that was 2019 and we are now 2022, and that son who started at 4.5 turning 5 the following year, that son is now 18.5. So that gives you an idea of how long we've been homeschooling, and why was that we couldn't get our child's needs met really through the school system. And we brought all the other kids home, like the older child and then the child who was at a connecting preschool. We brought him home as well because we felt that would be it would be a holistic experience for our family rather than having different children experiencing different styles of education. Question number 2, how many children do you have and what are their ages currently? So I have 5 children. The eldest is 20. Then we have an 18.5-year-old, a 17.5-year-old, a 13-year-old, and a 10-year-old. Question number 3, what is your philosophy around home educating? What does this look like in a practical sense on a day-to-day basis? So on a day-to-day basis, essentially for us, the philosophy is that we want to meet our children's needs in a way that, honours them, and we also feel like an eclectic approach works best for our family. So we mix and match curriculum as we find is necessary. We also have we are also homeschooling with chronic illness. So I have chronic illness, as does one of my children here, that's still at home homeschooling. The older 3 kids have now graduated from our homeschool program, but the 2 youngest who are homeschooling, of those 2, one has that sort of chronic illness that sometimes needs hospitalisation, or we need to be very flexible with learning for him. Both of the kids at home still, the younger 2 that are learning still, are autistic as well, and so again we want to be able to meet their needs in a unique way. Also for us as people of faith, we felt like we really wanted to give our children the opportunity to know God and know our faith in a real way, and that was just how it worked out. So on a practical day-to-day basis, it might look like mix and matching curriculum. It might look like starting later in the day than most people would start their homeschool day. There's a lot of flexibility for us, and we really love it. Question number 4, do you work or study whilst homeschooling? I have over the years at different times done work alongside our homeschooling. We've had quite flexible, we've had a flexibility within some of what we've done, because for a couple of the years my husband was a registered carer for one of our children, and so while he was at home also we opened a shop, and so some of the shop was some of the time we were spent in the shop or we were homeschooling, so we juggled the shop and the homeschooling. My husband now works full-time out of the home, and so I do a lot of homeschool consulting work and coaching, and I do also, I'm a writer, so I have a lot of freelance things on. Before that, I was a musician and would gig on the weekend. So again, flexibility being key, and we've just made it work within our family. Question number 5. Do you have any formal qualifications related to children or education? I guess the answer would be no. I did have a degree in acting, in theatre, performance, and I used to teach in a drama school that I set up just for about 2 years. But I haven't used those qualifications really, and yeah, that's about it for that question. Number 6, what type of schedule do you keep for your homeschool? So we think more around rhythm than actual schedule, so much more around activities than around time frames, if that makes sense. So ours would be more like, we have a planning Monday that we do, and I can I've got a post about that on my blog. But basically, the Planning Monday is that we all come together, usually with me with coffee in hand, and sit around our big whiteboard, and everybody gets a chance to say what they would like to do. So when I had 5 children at home homeschooling, everybody got a chance to say, I'd like to go to the pool this week, or I'd like to learn about butterflies, or I'd like to whatever it was. Everybody would have a chance to be heard, and I would also write down things that I would really like us to explore as well. And some of that may have been tying back into the New South Wales Vanessa standards for, the stage statements. It might be around a stage outcome, but there were things that I wanted done as well. And we would also include things like, baking for a friend who was sick, or visiting an elderly friend of ours. We would put those things down because we see that learning happens all the time. In every activity that we do, I wanted the kids to understand, as much as for myself, that learning, is an all-encompassing kind of thing in our life. And so the schedule or the rhythms really revolve kind of around the needs that we have, or the desires that we have for learning. And we do at different times we have had like morning schedules, or like morning rhythms and afternoon rhythms, where we might do, on certain days of the week, we might do science and geography or whatever. We're not doing that at the moment. At the moment, it's much more loose because of my health needs and my son's health needs. So that hopefully answers question number 6. Number 7, what is your favorite thing about homeschooling? My favorite thing would definitely be the connections that you get to make with your children, having time to see them really grow and to be a part of that. Like, we watched a butterfly emerge from a chrysalis together, and I was right there as they got to have their, oh my goodness, it's coming out kind of moment. I was right there alongside them, and that's a memory that I know I will cherish forever, and I hope they will too. But for me to, be a part of that, I think that's that's very special, and it's one of the things that I love most about homeschooling. What's your least favorite thing about homeschooling? Least favorite thing would probably be, gosh, that's hard. I guess not having a huge amount of time to just switch off and to be able to, go and meet a friend for lunch on my own or something like that. I still do those things. I just have to work a little bit harder at programming them in, or making a way for that to happen. So I certainly don't feel like there's too many limitations with homeschooling, and not as many as I found in the early years. But in these later years, I've learnt to manage those needs of mine really well, I guess. But it's still hard. It's still something that I go, like, if a friend messages me and says, let's go for coffee or let's go for lunch, and, I try and work around what we're doing at home with homeschooling. Number 9, 3 things you wish you knew when you first started homeschooling. I guess I underestimated the need for a marathon mindset. I think that's something that I learned as I went along. I probably undervalued the importance of having a weekend away once a year programmed into my calendar. I used to do a girls' weekend away once a year, and that was something that I really, really looked forward to. And I don't do it anymore, but looking back, I think that was probably something I undervalued, but I probably should have placed a little bit more value on those sort of weekend getaways. And in fact, if I had been able to, I probably could have had a second weekend away in there. Gosh, 3 things you wish you knew when you first started homeschooling. I guess the other would be the importance of things like developing recipes that can be quickly done in the morning so that they're ready for the afternoon. That sort of thing took me years to really get my head around. And I kind of wish that I'd known that earlier, how to feed my family well, and how to do that whilst homeschooling. And that I learnt to do that over the years again, but it took me a while to get to that point. And one thing you want new homeschoolers to know, I guess new homeschoolers, it would be great. It's great for you to know that, if you make a plan to start out with, you don't have to necessarily stick to that, and more than likely you won't. You'll probably get to the point, like I've had so many different styles over the years where we've had more of a focus on read alouds, or we've had more of a focus on handwriting, or on spelling lists, or whatever the thing is, and that's okay. You don't have to follow the trends that you're seeing out there of people saying you should do this or you should do that. Do what works for you. Find your feet. Give yourself the space and time to find your feet, to find your rhythm. And allow yourself to grow within that. There might be times where, like I say, you have like a morning rhythm and then an afternoon rhythm, and all of a sudden you might think, we haven't done that for ages. You don't have to go back to that. You don't have to be frantically, trying to reason it all together, and I don't know, you just do your thing. Do what works for you without questioning yourself and feeling guilty. And again, I think that ties back into question number 9, and probably even question number 8. The least favorite thing about homeschooling is sometimes doubting yourself. Especially in those early years for me, I just constantly wondered if we were doing enough, if we were screwing our kids up, if we were, making the most of our time together. And the reality is we're all on a different journey. So give yourself grace, give yourself time and space. Just like you want your kids' needs to be honoured, your needs have to be honoured too. And it's a marathon, it's not just this trying to get in there and get it all done. So I hope that helps. They're my answers to meet the teacher or meet the facilitator. And I really, hope you spend some time to go through the other videos in this Meet the Teacher series, and there'll be a playlist in the description box below. Don't forget that we offer membership as well, and there's lots and lots of printables on our site, and my goal is always to save you time and energy and stress. So I hope that we can see you on our Facebook or our Instagram soon. From That Homeschool Life, I'm signing off to say thank you so much for having me to be part of Meet the Teacher series, and I'll talk to you soon.